There have been more warnings over the last few weeks that we may well have more load shedding during winter. Already feeling a lot colder this week. If you're in the Western Cape, you're probably feeling a lot wetter. At the same time, a big conversation around the future of electricity. The world moving away from coal towards renewables. But that will have a huge knock-on effect. We will no longer need to employ so many people in coal mines and in the coal mining value chain. So if the solar industry takes off, will it actually employ people? Wido Schnabel is the chair of the SA Photovoltaic Industry Association. Wido, good afternoon to you. If we lose jobs in the coal industry, is the solar industry going to create jobs?
Good afternoon, Stephen. And the answer is yes. And the answer is it will even create more jobs. And that is actually the exciting news that we got out of our report.
Where will the jobs actually come from? What will people be doing?
Well, for one, it is construction jobs. That's the majority of jobs. Here is maybe a little bit of a challenge for those that are losing their jobs in the coal industry because those might be in different areas. Although South Africa has got very good radiation all over South Africa, and it can also have solar projects in those coal regions. They are not comparable in terms of the radiation with projects in the Northern Cape, for example, but still we've got good radiations there, and we could do other things in those regions that the coal is currently being mined and the coal-fired plants are.
So you say most of the jobs will come during the construction phase?
That is one of it, and it's actually quite interesting that you can see out of the report that we've just launched is how many jobs are also in O&M, so in operation and maintenance of these projects. Actually about over 30% are in that region. And that is an area where jobs will grow as we add more and more solar and renewable projects into our country's supply chain.
Okay, Wido, so I just want to get this right. Coal mining is a constant activity. So there are people, thousands of people employed in taking coal out of the ground and getting it into the power station. Now, sometimes that's usually on a conveyor belt, sometimes there are trucks involved, but there's a whole value chain around it, okay? This is coal on a constant basis happening minute by minute that's being mined by human beings. But when you start a solar power plant and the solar power plant is up and running or someone's put solar powers on your roof for you, what work is there to do then? You talk about maintenance, but there can't be that much maintenance.
Stephen, there is. And let me give you an example of another study that was done that showed actually the output. So we cannot compare just the capacity of a plant, but we need to talk about the output. That's the kilowatt hours that you get through your meter in your house. So if you take the energy, so the product that comes out of these power stations, if you take the energy and you take 100 terawatt hours of energy, you would need about 500 megawatts of coal-fired plant that runs 24/7. But on the other side, you would need 2 gigawatts of wind and solar, 1 gigawatt each. And here is actually the interesting part. To do 1 gigawatt of solar and 1 gigawatt of wind, you need about 28,000 jobs in that region to build that. But then to operation and maintenance for those projects, because remember, these are far bigger projects, far bigger energy generators, you need about 12,000. And the same is actually to say for coal operation and maintenance. So from the coal miner to operate those coal power stations, you need about the same amount, 12,500 jobs. So what is interesting is that in the construction side, there's actually much more jobs on the renewable side, on solar PV and wind, compared to the coal side. And that's the interesting thing. The difference is 26,000 to 38,000 in the renewable space. So there's more jobs altogether in the generation and the operation and maintenance of renewables.
Where are the solar panels going to be made, Wido? I mean, at the moment, if you want a cheap solar panel, you have to get one that, unfortunately, is stamped made in China, rather than one stamped in the RSA.
That is currently true, although we have got solar manufacturers or assembly lines in South Africa. We had actually quite a few and they have unfortunately closed down over the years because there was no further procurement of solar PV through our REAP program that we had in South Africa. So unfortunately, a lot of that has been lost, but there is still 2 companies left in South Africa, actually a few more in a small scale. But remember, the majority of jobs are not in manufacturing itself, but even that can be revitalized. We can restart this process to get the jobs in manufacturing back into South Africa, but it needs to have a commitment from government to make the rollout of renewables a step-by-step. Every year we need to have a certain amount of commitment that goes into that. And in the past that was paused, and it was stopped for 4 years. Contracts were not signed, and those manufacturers closed shop and went again. So yes, on the other end, one needs to also look into the value. So the question is, if you do a manufacturing in South Africa, there will be a price added to that. So you will have a slightly higher price to manufacture a module in South Africa compared to if you import it. Now the question is a slight higher tariff that would pay for this higher produced module worth our while? Or should we just say, okay, let's get cheap panels, build lots of them, and have lower electricity prices? And with that lower electricity prices, we can create more industrialization and more jobs than the few jobs that are in those factories. These are the 2 things one needs to look at and balance out.
Wido Schnabel, thanks very much indeed, Chair of the SA Photovoltaic Association. Do appreciate the time. Well, developing story this evening, the royal family, the Zulu royal family, now having arrived at Kwakhangela Mankangane, the palace of the late regent, for the reading of the late Queen's will. We're live now to senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. Who's arrived there so far?